Hello and welcome to Seton Hall University and Counseling Skills specifically. My name is Dr. Chris Lipperini. I am one of the Counseling Skills instructors. There are 4 of us that will be teaching this semester and meeting you at residency: Dr. Falvo, Professor Calazan, myself, and Dr. Smith. You will have one of us in your section online, and you'll get a chance to meet with all of us at the residency. But today I will be doing the lecture for you about counseling skills, what to expect, and how to have a strong start to this course as well as the program overall. Okay, so let's get started. Residency. Residency accounts for 10% of your final grade. You must be on time and attend all meetings during the residency. You will receive a schedule with expectations as far as the times for a meeting for our course, and we will let you know in advance if we'll be taking breaks or anything like that, which we always do because we know there are long stretches of participation during our time at residency. So there will be time for you to step out, use the restroom, call loved ones, catch up, but you must be on time. It's really important because in order for us to get through all the material, we really need a large number of you to be there at the same time instead of the distraction of people coming in and out. And you want to be there because there is a lot that we're covering that you're wondering about, and we will be covering all of that while we're together. So it's important for you to be there on time. Being there on time also conveys to us that you're taking it seriously, and we appreciate that, and we remember that when we're thinking about the students that we met during the residency. And of course, all meetings. This is not a buffet of picking which ones you attend, which you're interested in. You need to be at all of them unless you've spoken with Mrs. Mayarella or someone else at Seton Hall prior to the residency. Which brings us to the point before residency. If there is an issue with your attendance, you must speak with someone at the program. I recommend that you speak with Mrs. Mayarella, who is the best point person for that. So once you're at residency on time, sitting in our room together, it's really important that you participate. Why? Well, the practical reason for you is that it will help us remember you. And the added bonus is also that it will help you become more comfortable with the skills that we are covering. Hello and welcome to Counseling Skills. I'm Dr. Chris Lipperini, one of the instructors for Counseling Skills at Seton Hall University, and one of the 4 instructors that you'll be meeting during your residency weekend. The other instructors are Dr. Falvo, Professor Calazan, and Dr. Smith. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to start off on the right foot in our course as well as the program overall. I'll be providing to you an overview of the course and kind of the nuts and bolts as far as what to expect. I anticipate that many of you have already looked at the syllabus and may have a lot of questions, so hopefully this will fill in some of the gaps for you. So the first thing you're going to be doing in this course after our practice thread this week and our practice time together during this first week is during the second week you're going to be coming to residency. And residency is going to account for 10% of your final grade. So that's the good news. If you come to residency and participate fully, are on time and attend all of our meetings, you can go home after that residency and see a 10 out of 10, an A in the grade book. So that's the good news. The bad news is really only for those students who are not doing what they need to do and coming on time and coming to all meetings. So that's just really important to keep in mind that if we say we're starting at 9 a.m., we will be starting at 9 a.m. and we ask you to be present at that time. It can be distracting, especially in a large room with a lot of material to cover if students are entering late and moving to different points in the room, it can be very distracting to not only the presenters but the other students. So we ask you to be on time, and we ask you to attend all meetings. If you anticipate a problem with being able to come to any of the meetings during residency, I ask, and we all ask, that you speak with Mrs. Mayorella prior to the residency to review the reason why you're unable to participate and to have approval of the program, or to work with the program as far as how that will be addressed. So it's really important that you're proactive and speak to the program in advance of the residency if there are any issues related to your attendance. The final tip for residency, and perhaps the most important, is really to participate. That means showing up to our meetings, but also in the meetings, taking full advantage of it. We know that you're busy and you've made a commitment, not just financially, but personally and professionally to this program. So get the most out of it, participate. On a practical level, it will help us, your instructors, remember you. So when we all go back home and we as instructors are looking at our grade book and looking at posts online, when we see that name, we're going to remember the person who participated and asked questions or tried out a skill. Those are the people that will come to mind. So we're going to be able to connect the name and the face much better. And for you, it's also going to help you just become much more comfortable with the skills that we're talking about throughout the semester. During the residency is our first time practicing them and maybe even learning about them or putting a name to something we've already been doing. But in order to become comfortable, the authors of our textbooks will talk about, there is no way around practice and repetition to get more comfortable with the counseling skills. This is the beginning of a long road of practice and repetition before it becomes much more automatic and inherent to you. So this is the time to get started. Everyone's taking risks by participating and trying new things. We respect that, and we instructors create a very safe place for you to do that, and a very supportive place. So we encourage you to participate, try things out. A side note here that it's not about being perfect. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be a student coming to learn maybe a new field or a new specialty within a field you're already in. So we don't expect you to be perfect. And we instructors at residency will talk about how we are not perfect. We're all continuing to grow. And after sessions, we will see things that we would have done differently. And, sometimes even beat ourselves up after a session. So we are not expecting perfection because we can't offer it either. So what we can ask is participation from everyone. Participation will also make the taping exercise at the second day of residency much less stressful. I anticipate that I just raised your stress level by mentioning taping. We will be doing a short taping during the residency. You will be assigned one of the 4 counseling skills that we'll be covering throughout the semester. And you'll be trying to use that skill during your role play with your partner, who will be another student in another section of the course. So you're going to get plenty of practice before you tape. And again, it's about attempt more than execution. So your grade is going to be based on, did you attempt the skill? And I'll talk in a bit about the paper where you're going to talk about your taping experience of how you analyzed and really thought about your session. That's what it's about, not necessarily how wonderful your session was. It's about the attempt. So please do not worry. You can ask students that are there coming back for their second residency. There was anxiety about the taping for them, but most of them, if not all, will say that it was probably the best part of the course in retrospect for them. So I guarantee at the end of the semester, many of you will say the same thing. Threaded discussions. So you're going to hear a lot about TDs, not just in our course, but in other courses across the program. TDs are worth 30% of your final grade. And they're very important because they take the place of our weekly classroom time. So rather than you coming to a traditional classroom and meeting for 2.5 hours a week, we are having a virtual discussion in our threaded discussion, our TD classroom, if you will. So in a threaded discussion, your instructor will pose a question to you, which you can see as soon as a unit opens, and you need to respond to that question in several ways. So let's talk about that now. You're going to see the question from your instructor, and you're going to respond to that. That is called your major post. Every week, you're going to respond to that major post by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the EST is not here, but whenever you think about our course and deadlines, you're going to keep in mind Eastern Standard Time. So the unit opens right as soon as Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. The clock turns to Thursday. That's when the unit opens. You'll be able to access the materials and see the question. So you're going to take from Thursday to the end of Sunday to formulate and post your major post. Then, over the course of the discussion, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so Monday through Wednesday is when the actual discussion happens, where you're going to read everyone's major posts and anything that your instructor posts, and you're going to respond to some material. It may be someone's major post, you agree or disagree with something they've posted, or it just stands out to you and you want to comment on it. You would post a response to that. You need to post 2 responses by the close of the discussion and the close of the unit at Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's talk about what makes a quality post. For your major post, it's really important to answer all aspects of the question. Oftentimes, the question that is posed by the instructor has more than one question in it. So we may ask you 3 different things. In your major post, please address all 3 things. If you don't, you're not going to earn full credit. So make your life easy and be sure to comment on each of those areas of the question. I even suggest that you make each a separate paragraph or put a heading at the top of each paragraph or each part of your response, because it makes it easier for you to check off and say, okay, I hit each area. And also, it makes it easier for your instructor to see that you've covered all areas. Be sure to proofread. So use Microsoft Word's proofreading, spell check, but also look at it yourself, because spell check does not catch everything. So ask you to look at it for spelling and grammar as well. For me, the way I work, I can't proofread well on a screen, so I'll have to, usually what I will do is print out my own work and look at it and, pen and paper, proofread it. Find what works best for you, but whatever it is, please proofread. A quality major post also includes a citation, so it's referencing either our textbook or outside readings. So an outside reading, a quality outside reading would be you have Seton Hall, the library's online databases where you can pull up an article from a counseling related journal. It could be in a popular publication like a newspaper, something like that, if it's relevant to what we're talking about. It could be another textbook or other book that many wish you can also access through our online library services. A quality outside reference or resource is not something like Wikipedia. So we ask you to stay away from things like that. You can certainly look at websites. Good websites would be, for those of you looking to work in the school counseling setting, the American School Counseling Association has some great articles you can access without being a member. You may also want to consider becoming a member and gaining access to more resources there. Other students, American Counseling Association has some great free articles as well and resources, more when you become a member. So things to think about. Oftentimes the student rate for membership is pretty affordable compared to once you graduate and are a working professional. So this might be a good time for you to take advantage of that. Another important part of a major post as an instructor that I look for is the use of examples. By you using an example of a concept that we're talking about, it shows me that you understand it. So that application of a concept is really important. It'll make more sense as we go, but again, using examples is really key here. I want to see that you get it, that you're not just providing quotations from a book or definitions, but you're applying the material, you're making it come alive. I can see how it makes sense in your life or how you're anticipating it could make sense in your future work setting. Now, I've been talking a lot about what should be in this major post, but it doesn't have to be lengthy for all of that to get in there. So you do not need to have a 2-page major post. It can be short and sweet as long as everything's in there, meaning you're answering the question, you're giving me some examples, you're bringing in something from outside references. that's great. If it's short and sweet and to the point, that's fine. And some of the best work I've seen has been, really concise. And that is a good skill to develop at this point too, because when you are working as a counselor, school counselor, and writing your notes for sessions and things like that, or reports, they're looking for you to be concise. So this is a great time to start working on that. And we're also looking for basics of APA style in your major post, meaning if you are referencing the text or an outside reading, that you are referencing it in your post with the proper style, and providing the reference at the end of your post. It may not format correctly or exactly as you had thought it would when you bring it over to Blackboard, but we know that, and we're not taking off for spacing and things like that, but just the basics that, again, if you're referencing something, you're following basic APA style. So now you've done your major post. It's Sunday night, you've submitted it, you go to sleep. The next day you get up and it's Monday, and you're looking for to do, now you have to do these response posts. Remember, you have to do at least 2. Okay, so for credit for the week's discussion, we want to see 2 of these response posts, and we want them to be enhancing our discussion as a class. So a quality response post is not something like great idea or I agree or keep up the good work. Those are very encouraging to your classmates, and that's great, but that would not count as a response post. If you say, I agree, you can then add to that and explain why you agree and bring in some of your own thoughts or experiences, and that would count as one of your response posts. But you need to be bringing in examples again or outside resources to bring in a quality response post. Another way to have a quality response post is to ask questions of your classmates and your instructor. So if something didn't make sense to you in the reading, or something was really provocative and you're wondering what other classmates and even your instructor thought about it, pose it to the class as a response post. So those are really some good ways to get to your 2. And a point to be made early on in the program as you figure out your schedule and your own rhythm for how to participate in your classes is that your response posts need to be well-timed, meaning across the discussion. You can't just post 2 on Monday morning and say you're done with the unit. It's not a discussion then. It's you just kind of dumping some material in the classroom and then leaving. So we ask that you participate at least 2 of the 3 days of the discussion. So it could be Monday, Wednesday, it could be Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 of the 3 days. That way you have time to post your responses and also then respond to anyone who's asking questions of you or who has responded to one of your posts. So it's actually a back and forth and a discussion. Be sure that they're actually on time. Sometimes students will submit some Thursday morning or something like that they just didn't get to it. Well, the discussion has closed and we're on to the next unit, so those would not count. So just making sure that you get yours in on time. And it has to be said that they should be original. So this should be unique work created for this course. If you've taken the course before and are repeating the course, you're not permitted to use posts from your previous time in the course without permission from your instructor. Another 10% of your grade is going to be coming from taking the APA online course. You'll see that there is a link to it within the Blackboard course. Why we're doing this is because having a working knowledge of and skill with APA style is extremely important, not just in this course. Throughout your graduate program, you'll be needing to be familiar with it. And then depending on the type of position you secure after this program, you may still need to use APA style. So getting a grasp of it at this point is very important. Some of you may have had experience with it undergrad. We still ask that you take the APA online course. There may have been updates since the last time you used APA style, that there have been some revisions. And it's also just a great way to brush up and let us know that you are familiar with it. So again, taking the APA online course, that is considered one of your course materials aside from the textbook. You have towards the end of September to complete this, but I'm going to suggest that you not wait until the last minute. This takes more time than you may anticipate. It's not something you sit down and in an hour are going to complete. So make sure that you're opening it early, you're seeing what the requirements are, and that you're allowing enough time, because it is a lot to absorb. And as part of that, well, basically the 10% of your grade is for you to submit documentation that you have received a 75% or above on the quiz or the test at the end of the course. So you really can't wait until the last minute if you want to pass it. You may pass it the first time, but you are allowed to take it a second time. So you want to allow yourself that opportunity if you don't pass the first time, that you have enough time to go back and review certain areas and then pass the second time. The skills paper. Remember I mentioned that video? Well, here it comes into play. So if you haven't already panicked about the video, please do not panic now. So basically this paper is going to be worth 15% of your grade. So again, there's that videotape you make at residency, and your skills paper is going to be a discussion of that. What's going to happen is once we all come back home after residency, when we discuss the skill that you were assigned during the semester, you'll see on the syllabus inside the course of when we're discussing what, you will have your video posted that week in the discussion, and we will be discussing your video and probably another classmate's video using that same skill. That will be the basis for our discussion. We'll be talking about strengths in the video, things that maybe could have been done differently, opportunities to use the skill that might have been missed, things like that. So we're going to discuss your assigned skill, but also notice other skills that were used. During that week online in the discussion, it is your responsibility to facilitate or co-facilitate the discussion with your classmate who may also have their video shown. What that means is you're expected to be more active than a minimum of 2 response posts. We want to see you asking your classmates questions, follow-ups to their major posts in which they're discussing your video. So an example could be maybe a classmate says, John, asked a good question to his client halfway through the video. Okay, you're going to want more than that. Why was it a good question? So asking that classmate, if you were John, can you tell me what you thought was effective about that question? What specific question was it? So you can get more information, because you're going to want to take your peer feedback and use that in your paper. And you're also going to use your own observations. So it's important to be active in the discussion, to not shy away from asking your classmates what you could have done differently at points. But what oftentimes is the area where students struggle the most is asking their classmates about their strengths. Well, what do you think I did well in the video? And even more difficult and perhaps the most painful thing for a lot of students is to identify their own strengths. There is a lot of wincing and looking away when people are watching their video for the first time. Often you notice nonverbal behavior you didn't notice before, or you're cringing at the way you're sitting, or something you said, it didn't sound the way you had thought it would. And you're your toughest critic. You're very hard on yourself. But we're going to be asking you to also identify your strengths. So you're going to be observing and providing your take on the video, but also eliciting feedback from your peers so that you can include that in your paper. And again, like I mentioned before, the skills paper grade is not based on how well you executed your skill, simply one, that you tried the skill in the video and that you were able to discuss it online and then in the paper. Okay. Another 10% of your grade is what we call a journal portfolio. It is not actually a paper journal or even a journal of like a folder within Blackboard that you're submitting. It's simply 4 journals that you're completing. We call it a portfolio because they collectively are a self-reflective exercise. But it's essentially completing 4 journals that correspond with the 4 skills and those weeks during the semester. All you need to do to successfully complete your journal and get full credit is answer the question from your perspective. That means no references, just talking about how it resonates with you, how it reflects your own experiences, how it fits with how you see yourself. It'll make sense when you see the journal prompts. So we're giving you a prompt or a question and then asking you to respond to that. Nobody aside from your instructor will be able to read it. And many of your instructors, I know that I will provide comments on at least one or two of the journals if I'm reading it and there's something that strikes me that I want to give feedback on. Knowing that it's going to your instructor, please only provide any, any experiences or feelings that you would want someone else to read. In some way, it's not truly a journal just for yourself. So just be thoughtful and, think about what you would like to share. We're not asking you to disclose things that are extremely painful or unfinished business for yourself. We respect boundaries and want to emphasize that boundaries are a good thing. So if you're not comfortable sharing something, please do not. That's totally fine. And you might just want to make note for yourself if something is coming up for you during one of these self-reflective journals, that maybe that's something you want to explore elsewhere if it's bringing something up for you. So these journals that you're doing are created because they're helpful for you in writing your ... self-awareness paper. This paper is worth 15% of your final grade. Now it comes towards the end of the semester. I think, in fact, it's probably our last assignment in December. So it's the culmination of everything. And oftentimes I think it's a really nice way for students to end the semester. I don't know if I'd call it fun, but it's a gratifying paper for students to write and put things together, because as a student, you're going to be looking at the skills that you used in your video and reflecting on that, and then thinking about your journals and putting it all together. So it really does, it's like a culmination of everything we've discussed. As long as you follow the instructions that we provide, students usually do pretty well on this paper. Again, the key is following the instructions and doing those journals and taking them seriously so that you have some real reflective material to bring to this paper as well. So I said, following the directions is very important. A lot of the reasons that we do have deductions during this assignment are simply because students do not. So things like submitting it late, not giving the examples we are asking for, not proofreading. Often at the end of the semester, there could be a bit of a rush, and this falls by the wayside, as does the organization of a paper. So you can be working on this throughout the semester of creating an outline and fleshing it out as we go. So try to do that if you can. It'll make the end of the semester crunch a little easier. And last but not least will be 4 mini assessments across the semester. And those are worth 10% of your grade overall. These correspond with the 4 skills that we're going to be talking about at residency, using in our videos, and then covering during the semester. During that unit where we're discussing the skill, so an example would be the week that we're discussing questioning. At the end of the week, you'll be asked to have completed the quiz that corresponds with that. It's looking at, how do you understand the skill? Can you apply it? These are very brief quizzes. When I look at how long it takes a student to complete it, we're talking minutes, not an hour. It is self-paced, so if you need to step away, look at your textbook, think about it before you write your response, that is completely fine. I believe you can even go back in, at another time to complete it. There's usually about 5 questions per assessment, and they're completed on Blackboard. They're either multiple choice or a fill in the blank with a brief response. There'll be an example of the type of how to respond on each assessment. They're graded in Blackboard, and your grade will pop right up in the grade book. So far, I've talked a lot about kind of the content of the course. So what you need to be doing of submitting things. I alluded to at residency our relationship of, wanting to be remembered in the positive light by showing up on time. And that's true. But as instructors coming to the residency, we also take seriously when it's 9 o'clock in the morning. We know that's early for all of us on a weekend. We get there at 9 o'clock too. So it's about mutual respect. We're respecting your time too. that you've taken time out to come to this residency. So we're starting on time and we're ready to go as well. And we like to continue that throughout the semester of creating an atmosphere in our virtual classroom of mutual respect. So that goes from anything to if something's happening online in our discussion that's not feeling right between us, like maybe you're not responding to my posts and I'm posting again and again to you and you ignore them, I would reach out to you in an email or a phone conversation to check in with you about that, rather than doing something on the discussion board that might be embarrassing of calling that behavior out. In turn, we expect the same from you. So if you're having an issue with the course or with something from us as an instructor, we ask that you come to us, whether it's a phone call or an email. Oftentimes, the problems that arise in this course or other courses come from students not reaching out to the instructor when there is a problem and things kind of brew, or often it can be based on a misunderstanding that could easily be addressed, but rather the student doesn't address it with us, and it gets worse, or there's just a blank to be filled in and it's not filled in accurately. So really about us communicating with each other. So ongoing communication. Like I said, as soon as something happens, get in touch with us. We will note, if we notice that you're not in the course, you're missing, we will reach out to you with an email, and we ask that you respond to that email. Going missing and not responding to our emails has never made a situation better with the student. And it's happened every semester where something isn't going well. Maybe the student isn't doing well early in the course, and I or one of my colleagues will reach out to the instructor or the student and ask, what's going on? How can we be of help? And the student doesn't respond. That's the best point early in the semester and early in a problem to correct it. And I find that a lot of times we can fix the problem. Maybe, I've had students that need to use the writing center on campus, and their grades go up when their writing improves because they got some support, or if they're not understanding the quizzes. Last semester, I had a student who just wasn't understanding what I was asking for with the quiz with a short response. So when we went through the next upcoming quiz and I clarified it for her, she got a 10 out of 10 on that quiz. So, and she had struggled through 2 or 3 quizzes before that. So the sooner we can talk, the sooner we can resolve an issue, and you'll feel better about being in the course. And if you're concerned about your performance and we haven't reached out to you about it, talk to us. We'll give you an honest take on how you're doing and what we see as areas where you can improve. By mid-semester, I do send out kind of a mid-semester check-in with any students that I'm concerned about how they're doing. So you can expect that. But again, don't ignore our emails. It never ends well that way. So if we reach out to you, please reach out back and let's have a conversation. If you feel like something would be better discussed over the phone, certainly call your instructor. We provide our phone numbers. Some things get lost in translation with email, and that's important to keep in mind, that there's no tone to email. So if there's something you really want to discuss and it's a longer conversation, maybe you send an email to your instructor asking if you could set up a time to have that phone conversation. So I'm talking a lot about email, and something we always discuss at residency, but let's just start talking about it now, is since email and written communication online are going to be the primary ways you're communicating with your instructor and classmates, please think about how you come across in your written communications. So that would be things like in your email to instructors, providing a subject line and starting out with a salutation like, "Dear Dr. Lipperini," instead of just, "I've gotten this before, hey," or just no greeting. And that's not the way you want to communicate with an instructor. And this isn't about me having a power trip, but it's just about, the way we should address each other. So putting, "Dear Dr. Lipperini" or "Dear Dr. Falvo" before you start your message, and then signing off appropriately. Not using all caps. And if you are upset about something happening in the course or a grade or something like that, my advice to you from doing this for over a decade is if you're drafting an email or you're writing an email while you're upset, I suggest that you save it as a draft before you send it and then come back to it a little later after you've had time to kind of sit with it, process whatever's going on, maybe vent to someone else or get their take. I've never had a student who has sent an angry email not regret it later. It's not something you can take back when you're writing in all caps or making accusations towards an instructor or venting, just kind of straight venting in an email. You can't really, very rarely can you get that email back before it's read by somebody else. I know some programs do that of email programs, but not the Seton Hall account as far as I know. And so you don't want to, just jot off a quick message that has a lot of emotion behind it. So think before you send, and just make sure that you're including a salutation at the beginning of an email as well. And then we should be in good shape, because we as instructors hopefully are doing the same back at you. Okay. So another thing, direct communication. So if there's something going on that you're worried about or frustrated about in the course, the best way to address it is for you as an individual to speak to the instructor, rather than a lot of times you as a cohort or a group. If you're having the same classes, you'll talk to each other a lot and may even form a Facebook group or something like that where you can continue to talk about things and collaborate on things, or even vent, which is fine. We don't look to join those groups. That's beside the point of having the group. You don't want us there. And that's all well and good to vent and support each other through these groups and communications. But when you're all complaining about something or unclear about something and telling each other how it's unclear to you, that doesn't really accomplish anything. So if you're frustrated or confused about something, come directly to your instructor and talk to him or her. That's the best way to go about it. I give the example of a few semesters ago, there was a different textbook we were using, and it didn't include this term that we had mentioned in an assignment that students needed to find one or two examples of this term. And nobody understood what the term was, so they just didn't cover that part of the paper. They just ignored it. So everybody got a deduction. And at the end of the semester, when we asked for feedback, they said, well, we didn't know what the term was. And we as instructors said, well, nobody asked us. We weren't aware. We assumed something was up once everybody got a deduction on the paper, but it was their responsibility to let us know if there was a gap in information. We do our best to make sure that doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. And with a simple search, they actually could have found information on that term in another counseling text that was available through the library online. So again, moral of the story in short is if you've got an issue, talk to us directly rather than just amongst yourselves. So in closing, whether it's at the residency or across the semester, from your home or wherever you're doing this work, try to have fun with it. I think you'll see that we can have fun, just even starting at residency. That yes, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of material to cover, but we all want to have a good time and relax enough to try things out and not be perfect and get to know each other as well. So you'll see from our personalities too that we do like to have fun and we do like to bring the material to life. So just try to let your hair down a little bit. That doesn't mean coming in your sweats. We expect you to be dressed at the residency, in a casual professional manner, I guess. I'm sure Mrs. Mayarella has provided you with a dress code. Certainly when you're at home, you can wear your sweatpants or pajamas. I, as an instructor, will be wearing mine when I'm grading or posting to you, I'm sure. But let's have fun. We can be respectful of the material and one another, but also have some fun as well. Part of being in the counseling profession we're going to talk about is avoiding burnout and self-care. And I find one of the ways that I'm able to do that is by using humor when possible. So anyway, enough about that point. Let's talk about some more things that will help you have a strong start that other students have told us in the past. At residency and online, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I mentioned before, you're expected to be a beginner, which is why you're in this graduate program. So we expect questions and we welcome questions. It's a great way to help us remember you too. Starting this week with our practice discussion, and then definitely at residency, we ask you to give yourself permission not to be perfect. I am a recovering perfectionist, and I relapse a lot. So I'm still working on this myself as well. But just it's great to have high expectations for yourself, or to care about how you come across. That's great. We want you to present yourself professionally, or conduct yourself in a way that you can be proud of. But that's not the same as being perfect. And you're not going to try things if you're holding yourself to that standard. So I'd rather you try things out, or raise your hand during one of our discussions at residency and give an answer that's not exactly right, or perhaps just totally wrong, and be okay with that. I'm going to remember you because you raised your hand and you tried. So please raise your hand. Please just try. And again, at residency and online, talk to us. Get to know your classmates. You're going to be on this ride together. You could be great supports across this program. I've seen cohorts or teams come through that have become friends for years and ended up working together and really helping each other grow. So get to know them now, and you'll be seeing us throughout the program too. So get to know us, and I think we can have a great time together. And I think this is going to be a great semester. And even though it's a lot of work, I think you will come out of it saying that it was a great experience. Part of that will be you'll get out of it what you put into it. But I'm excited to be with you on this step of the journey as you get started. I think this is a time, it's an exciting time, but I know also nerve-wracking for you as well. So we'll get started this week, and I will help you get started. Your other instructors will help you get started as you practice. And before you know it, we're going to be talking in December about what a ride we had this first semester. So with that being said, thank you for listening to this lecture, and I will see you at residency.